Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1231.
Try to do the right thing. Be the best guy you can.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hey, this is Mark Green. Join me at the Classic Auto Show in Costa Mesa, California, this March 16th and 17th at the Orange County Fair and Events Center. I'll be the celebrity stage MC conducting live interviews with past Cars Yeah guests, including Adam Carolla, the Grand Marshal, Dave Kindig from Bitchin' Rides, Wayne Carini from Chasing Classic Cars, Mark Warman from Graveyard Cars, Mike Finnegan from Roadkill, Bogey from All Girls Garage, Big Mike, import tuner and builder, and Lynn St. James, an iconic race car driver. I hope I'll see you at the Classic Auto Show. For more information, go to theclassicautoshow.com. That's theclassicautoshow.com. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I am revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest, calling in from beautiful Huntington Beach, California, Steve Gibbs. Hey, Steve, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Yeah, I think so, Mark. Let's do it.
All right. Steve Gibbs has been an integral part of the National Hot Rod Association, known as the NHRA, for over 50 years, and his career began back in 1961 at the old San Gabriel Drag Strip, where he became a drag strip operator. He operated the Irwindale Raceway beginning in 1966, and then went on to Fremont Raceway, and then Corpus Christi Raceway, and was hired by the National Hot Rod Association, later appointed as the NHRA Competition Director. All told, he directed nearly 400 NHRA national events in over 2 decades, with his duties stretching worldwide. Recipients of numerous awards and accolades, he was instrumental in the development of the Wally Parks Motorsports Museum and the California Hot Rod Reunion. Steve's involvement in the sports knows no bounds. Steve will be with me at this year's Classic Auto Show in Costa Mesa, California, sharing his history of drag racing as part of his Nitro Revival with the Classic Cackle Cars. So, Steve, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, if this is even possible, with your career and share a little bit more about that career and your passion for cars that go really fast?
Well, I'm getting on in years, but I happened to, land, I think, luckily in the 1950s as a teenager, and it was just really a pretty magical time to be a young kid if you like cars, and drag racing was fresh and new, and there were a lot of tracks around. There was kind of an abundance of World War II, airstrips around. So it was the sport really took off in the 50s, and I was able to get involved in it at first as a fan, and then kind of worked my way in part-time work, and one way or other carved out a career out of drag racing. And the sport has obviously grown to become a major motorsports discipline in the world. I just happened to land at the right time and be at the right place and maybe push the right buttons. And so it worked out to be an interesting career. We've got to do a lot in our time, a lot of travel, a lot of interesting things, and it's been a pretty good ride.
No doubt. It's been an incredibly fast ride. I had the pleasure of getting to talk to Steve on the phone for a bit the other day before we set up this interview. And yeah, I grew up down in Southern California like Steve. I remember going to the Orange County Raceway, watching the drags with my dad. And just thinking back to those days after listening to Steve talk brought back so many wonderful memories. And Steve's the epitome of the Cars Yeah inspiring automotive enthusiast, a guy who chased his passions, figured out a way to make a career in it, and he did just that. And you know what? He's not slowing down. Steve, you're approaching 80 years old today. Is that right?
I'll be 79 here in a couple of weeks, so it's not too far from me. We're definitely got a lot of life in the rearview mirror, but luckily, good genes, and I've kept myself in pretty good shape. So, we're still pretty active, and that's thankful for that.
Yeah, and that is the secret sauce to having a good life: is stay active, stay involved. Steve is exactly the kind of guy that's done that. Well, as we continue on your journey. And by the way, I don't mean to push your age a little bit there. I'll back off a little bit on the throttle. I'll give you one more year before you hit the big 8-0. As we move into the questions I have for you, I always like to start with a success quote or a mantra. This is a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars. Yeah. So, Steve, grab the wheel.
Well, I'm not sure. I just tried to conduct my life as if I can sleep at night. Can I sleep at night with any of the things I've done in personal life and the decisions I've had to make, during my career with NHRA and other things. Try to do the right thing, be the best guy you can, and it's pretty simple. But I think it's worked for me, and we've had a pretty successable career. I think I've enjoyed a pretty good reputation within the sport, and I think what goes around comes around, and I feel that's pretty simplistic, but I kind of buy into that theory.
Yeah. I love that. And after interviewing 1,230 people before you, that simple mantra, "Can I sleep tonight?" is so poignant. It's so clear. It's so precise. Really a nice way to go through your life, to make sure that you treat others the right way and you treat yourself the right way and you feel good about what you did that day. I love that. I love the simplicity of it. Wonderful, wonderful thing to share. Well, I'm going to take you way back in time here, Steve, way, way back to that moment in time that instigated your personal passion for cars. Being a teenager in the 50s, what a magical time that must have been. Is there a pivotal moment as you remember it when you knew, you know what, I'm a car guy?
Well, it could be. My first car, and again, if you grew up in that era, it really was a big deal to get your first car, and you could work on those cars. So when I was 16 years old, and I always was good at making money, either as a box boy at a market or whatever it took. I always seemed to be able to stay busy and had enough money to buy a real nice used 1950 Ford Club Coupe. It was really a nice car, and it was my first car, obviously, and I loved that car. One of the first places I went was to the old San Gabriel Drag Strip, and I think admission was $1 to get in and 50 cents for a pit pass, and a lot of times I wouldn't even go in. I'd park outside and just stand at the gate and watch these guys coming in every Sunday. But that first car, it was a magical time in my life, and it means so much in our life because my wife and I, we've dated in high school. We've been married, it'll be 59 years this September. And so that first car was our car. And that car went away over time, but I've got one now. I've got an orange 1950 Ford. It's a lot better than that first one we had, but we still have it. It's sitting out here. I'm looking at it right now. And luckily enough, in that time frame, you could work on those cars. It was just, like I say, getting old has its downside, but at the same time, I think we grew up in a really special time in the 1950s to where those cars, they meant a lot, and they still do.
I love the look of that car, and when Ford came out with that car, it was somewhat of a new streamlined design for them. Very cool looking, and it makes for a cool hot rod, a cool custom car, or it looks just really darn cool, just stock as it is. So what a sweet memory. I love that, and congratulations on so many wonderful years with your wife. That is absolutely incredible. Well, let's take a look at some of these many roads you've driven down. I always like to ask my guests for more of a challenge or even a failure that they faced along the way. But the reason I ask this question is more about how that taught you a great lesson so you could move forward or share that with others who might be going through some kind of tough time that you may have gone through. No doubt, in a long and full life like you've had, you've met up with a few challenges once in a while. So walk us through one of those if you would, and tell us how that experience helped you gain even more momentum as you move forward in your business, in your career, in your life.
Yeah, there's been a lot of challenges along the way, conducting all those racing events over the years. So each one of those was probably a challenge. But we had some, of those races, there was a couple of them that was really pretty tough. And I think you had to dig down pretty deep to get through them. We had one particular race in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, back in the early 80s, that the racing surface had been recapped and literally started coming off when the first cars went down the racetrack, and we were on the verge of actually canceling the event. That was just tough. All these people come to town to race. They spent money on all these things. So you don't just casually cancel a race. So we literally went out and scraped off the new surface that had been put on the track. We had every bit of equipment we could find near and far to do that. And then after about 6 or 8 hours, we got back to the old racing surface and we completed the event.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
It could have been better, but it was actually, we were able to get through it. And there was other similar, instances where you had to get improvise. There's no manual for, you have to think on your feet. One of the things I guess I pride myself on is, down south, folks call it walking around sense, common sense, just
yes,
common, reasonable solutions to, problems that pop up. And that's something that I seem to be blessed with. And obviously, hard work and good people to help you along the way. You can't do it by yourself. You have to have good people. And I always had a good staff of people to help me through those things. But that one race, boy, at the end of that race, it a few more gray hairs,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's is incredible. I'm imagining sitting there, you're dealing with that, and someone says, well, let's just scrape the darn surface off and go back to what we started with. And everybody looking at each other going, like, right now? You want to do that right now? And then doing it, just rolling up your sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a few folks thought we were a little crazy even attempting it. But luckily, the material that they used, you couldn't do that with every form of asphalt or anything. But the surface that they had applied was just faulty to start with. And fortunately, we got through it and we had a successful event.
Well, kudos to you and your team for what you guys pulled off. That's just, wow, that's mind-boggling. Well, you mentioned that beautiful old Ford that you have, but I'd love for you to talk about maybe the first really special car. And I know that was special because it was your first car. You earned the money yourself, which is the best way to do it, of course, when you're a kid. But is there a car in your life that came to you early on that you went, man, this is something I really wanted, worked really hard towards?
Well, I guess that would be the car. And, of course, the replacement car, like I say, with that car, wound up going to the junkyard eventually after it was stolen and wrecked. But so the replacement car is that car. But I guess one car that if I could get it back that I'd let slip away from me was always been kind of a Ford guy. It was a 1964 Ford Fairlane Sport Coupe. They made great race cars. They called them Thunderbolts with the 429 engine. Mine had a little 289. It was just a driver, but it was just a beautiful little car, and they're hard to find now. They've become pretty scarce, but that's one that I wouldn't mind redoing. It was a beautiful blue car. Our kids grew up in that car, and I used it as my staff car at Irwindale Raceway. So I guess that would be it, the little Fairlane Sport Coupe.
I love those cars, and I love that nice long strip of chrome that went all the way down the side, from the front all the way to the back. And if I remember right, it had like a little scoop just behind the door. Kind of a decorative piece, I'm sure. It probably didn't do anything other than look cool like all the cars back then. But those are sweet little rides too.
Yeah, you've got it. And it was a nice little car. I actually ordered a Galaxy, a new car, and I went down to pick it up, and that little Fairlane was sitting there at the dealership, and I asked, I think I'm going to change my mind here. I had that big old car. It's pretty and all, but I like this little Fairlane. It's just the right size, and we had a lot of good times in that car. And again, I'd love to have it back. I found one the other day, same color. Really looked like it was almost, I know it's not the car, but boy, it was so close. But the guy didn't want to have anything he didn't want to talk about letting it go. So maybe one will pop up someday. I don't know.
Well, keep your eyes open. I'll have all our listeners out there keep their eyes open for you as well, Steve. I'm like you. I kind of like little smaller cars, 2-door coupes. Have always been my choice. I'm not a big 4-door car guy. So, just like the look and feel of those cars. Is there a vehicle you've let go in your life that you just look back and think, I want that back? Is it that car?
Well, it's probably that car. I had a couple of them that I had. One was it had a checkered past, but the first new car I ever bought was a little Corvair, and a little sport coupe, little 4-speed, and it was really kind of a neat little car. You know, they took a lot of heat, safety wise, and Ralph Nader and his thing. But that was a slick little car. It was fun to drive. And again, the first new car I could ever afford to buy off the showroom. And so I wouldn't mind having that one back. They make neat cars when you see them at car shows, and they're kind of rare anymore. You know, it was a little sport coupe, real pretty gold color, and it started leaking oil like all Corvairs after a while. I think that's what I traded in. That's what I traded in on the Fairlane. But I wouldn't mind having that one back either. Yeah, it was a neat little car. It's fun to drive. It was sporty, and at the time they were plenty different. And again, they're getting kind of scarce too.
They are, absolutely. I was at a car show last summer here in the Pacific Northwest, and a guy had a Corvair Monza, which was pretty cool. I've not seen one of those before. I thought it was a neat little car, but I love air-cooled cars because I'm a Porsche guy, so I love the whole concept of the Corvair, the rear engine. Yeah, neat little cars. I love them. Well, I would love for you to share a little bit with our listeners about one of the many things you're involved in, and this is Nitro Revival. I know you're going to have that show again this year. I think it's in June, perhaps, but maybe you could share a little bit more about Nitro Revival.
The sports, it's aged. Drag racing really got its start in the 50s, and it was really booming in the 60s and 70s, and a ton of people got involved. It was a lot less expensive, and guys could build cars that top-of-the-line cars, top fuel dragsters, the fastest cars in the sport, and they still are, but they've become so incredibly expensive that it's kind of taken the sport away from, I'd say, the average guy. It's become more of a spectator show, and I admire what the guys are doing out there. But there was a time where the average guy could build a top fuel car and go out and race, and there was a place to race. So anyway, over time, the nostalgia thing is obviously taken hold because guys are getting older, and we started a deal about 20-some years ago. We would call them cackle cars. And when you cackle the engine, it means you fire it up. And on Nitro, it really does have a unique sound. So we started actually encouraging these guys to restore their old cars, to find them, to replicate them. And over the years, literally hundreds of these cars have come out of the woodwork. And they don't race them anymore, but they're show cars anymore with sight and sound and smell. And the guys fire the engines up. They may push start them. And we turned it into a little bit of a production. And term Nitro Revival came into play because we're reviving these old cars. And we started a little series, my daughter and I. This will be our third one. And again, it's a show place for these guys to bring these cars, and also the guys with street rods and conventional race cars, and try to put on a nice little show. But we got one coming up in May at the Irwindale Speedway, which is an 8-mile drag strip in eastern, San Gabriel Valley, about 20 miles east of Los Angeles, and it'll be our third production, and we're optimistic. We got a lot of these guys bringing these cars, many from out of state. Famous cars. TV Tommy Ivo and the Don Garlett's car, and cars that, if you've been around the sport a long time, you'll recognize. And the guys love to bring them out, show them off, fire them up, and enjoy. It's a combination of a reunion and a car show, and just try to have a good time and enjoy the past that we shared.
Sounds like a blast. Sounds like a lot of fun. I would love to be at that show. Would bring back great memories of my dad taking me to Orange County Raceway and watching the dragsters there. Is there a place where our listeners can go to learn more about it and put that on their calendar? Is there a website?
Well, we do. We have a website. It's it's a modest effort, but it's nitrorevival.com. Spelled right out like it is, pretty simple, nitrorevival.com. And there's the information on there. And there's, some results from our previous events, and entry list of the cars that are coming to this event in May. Try to show these cars at other events too. There's other smaller events which we're going to be doing here in March at Costa Mesa.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about that. The Classic Auto Show. I'm very honored. I'm going to be the MC on the celebrity stage this year, and I get to interview a whole bunch of famous TV folks that have been past guests on my podcast. But I'm also going to get to meet Steve at this show because you're in charge of the Cackle Cars. So tell our listeners a little bit about when they go to the Classic Auto Show in Costa Mesa, March 16th, 17th, what they can expect to see from you.
Well, we were contacted by the folks with the Classic Auto Show to give them a hand. And, they had got word of these kinds of cars and the popularity of them. So I'll give them a hand in lining up 8 of these cars that will be down there on Saturday of the show. And the cars will be on display, and then we'll have a parade of the cars, and then we'll be doing a simulated push start where the cars will fire the engines, and period correct push vehicles will push them down the designated route at the fairgrounds. It makes a nice show. It gives a good image of what these cars look like and sounded like from that era in primarily the 1960s, but the crowds just love it. I mean, every time you fire one of these engines up and a few thousand horsepower working there, and you got the flames out of the headers and the smell of the nitro. I mean, it takes you back if you were there, but if you weren't there, you think, man, I wish I would have been there. So, anyway, we've got 8 of those cars coming, and they're really nice. A variety of the nitro-powered dragsters and roadsters. So we're looking forward to that. Should be a fun time.
Absolutely. It's going to be an awesome time, and I'll remind my listeners to check that out. If you're anywhere near Costa Mesa, Los Angeles, Orange County, California, middle of March, you got to join Steve and I at this show. It's going to be so much fun. There's over 2,000 cars that are going to be there, all sorts of celebrities, displays, lots of people that I've had on this show. It's going to be a blast, so make sure you make it to the Classic Auto Show. You can go to Steve's Cars Yeah show notes page to see links there, or on my website to the Classic Auto Show to get tickets and find out how to attend. Steve, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. Hey, Cars Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Covercraft. I've protected my vehicles with their products for decades. Want to keep your vehicle's interior looking new? It's easy with Covercraft seat covers. They'll protect your seats from the daily abuse of pets, children, weekend adventures, and even those everyday spills. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. All Covercraft seat covers are easy on, easy off design that are machine washable. You can choose from many fabric options, colors, and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicles. Their seat gloves are semi-custom fit for cars and trucks, and their seat savers, a favorite of mine, are custom tailored to fit your seats like a glove. Work truck seat covers are tough, durable, denim weight fabric. It's like putting a pair of rugged jeans on your truck's seats. Want to stay warm? Covercraft also offers seat heaters. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark at Cars Yeah sent you. That's covercraft.com. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from the Cars Yeah podcast. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? That's right. Cars Yeah is now on MAV TV. I visit some of the past Cars Yeah guests and take you along for the ride. Go to mavtv.com to learn more where you can enjoy Cars Yeah TV. MAV TV is also available on DirecTV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through mavtv.com online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting. All right, Steve, we are back, and I have a very introspective question for you, Steve. If you woke up tomorrow and you were a vehicle or a race car or a dragster parked in the garage there, what would Steve be?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. It'd probably be an airplane.
There's a unique answer.
Well, if I could walk out of my garage or hangar and be one of them, I just have a thing about World War II airplanes. I owned a Stearman biplane. Was about as far as I got in my flying, but it was fun. I enjoyed that, and I would have loved to work my way up to become either a P-51 Mustang or an F-6F Hellcat. I just love World War II warbirds. So that's, maybe that's not the answer you're looking for, but it's if I could transform myself into something mechanical, I think that's what it would be. But if it were a car, oh man, there's so many of them. Another car I love that is just, I've never been a Chevy guy so much, but I love the 59 El Camino. There's just something about that car that it goes with drag racing. So many of them were push cars and tow cars in that era. That might be me. I might be a 59 El Camino, which is going against my Ford grain, but I love those cars. Just something about them, that eyebrow tail light, it really fit on the El Camino. But anyway, that's
That's a great answer, Steve. I love it. And to kind of divert away from your love for Ford, but that's okay. It brings back the history and nostalgia. But I really love your answer of an old warbird. A P-51 Mustang. Cadillac of the sky. That thing is just the most sexy plane on the planet. I think the only thing, in my opinion, it comes close is a Spitfire. And maybe it's just because of the sound of those motors, but very nicely done. Well, Steve, we are up to the last lap, and I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Just take care of your stuff. You maintain your stuff. It's going to last you a long time. So I'm pretty, it's pretty simple. But I think these cars are great cars. The stuff that's produced is really good if you maintain it. So just take care of your stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And includes your physical body too. Take care of yourself. Could you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
I guess dedication and integrity. Try to stand up for things you believe in and do the right thing. Try to be able to sleep at night when you have to make those decisions. And I think this worked pretty well for me.
Most definitely it has. Now, how about a resource? There are so many cool resources these days for us automotive enthusiasts. Is there one you'd like to share?
The internet's just amazing. The information that's available out there. And it took me a little while to come around the computer age, but it really is fascinating. Some of the information you can find out about your own family. I've kind of got into the family history through the DNA and Ancestry.com, and I found some interesting stuff about my ancestry. I don't put a lot of stock in, pride of what my ancestors did, but it's interesting, the information you can get. Very interesting.
It's absolutely fascinating. My mom's going through finding some revelationary things about her history and her family that are just mind-blowing. So, and we've done the same. My son really got into it and found some people in our past that I had no idea that we were connected to, some very famous people too. I guess in some way, we're all connected in one way or another, but it's really, really fun, the things you can learn these days. Now, if I could arrange for you to have a drink with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would it be?
Well, it'd probably have to be Wally Parks, the founder of NHRA. He hired me in 1969. I loved Wally. I became almost like a second dad, and he lived to 94. But, I'd love to be able to sit down and have a cold one with him again.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to have him as a guest on this show. It'd be quite special. What a life, what a legacy. Is there a book that you've enjoyed that you think our listeners would enjoy as well?
Well, there's been quite a few good books on drag racing, but Robert Post wrote a book some time ago called High Performance, and he was a historian at the Smithsonian and a real, racing and expert. And that's a great book. It's been in print for some time, but it's called High Performance, and it's by Dr. Robert Post. So if you could find one, it would really give you an insight on the history of the sport.
Absolutely. Well, I'll remind our listeners, I'll put links to all these great resources Steve has shared on his Cars Yeah! show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Steve Gibbs in the search bar, and his page will pop right up. All right, Steve, we are up to the checkered flag, and this last question could be a bit of a doozy. Almost time to pull the ripcord here. We're at the end of the quarter mile. If I could buy you one very cool collector car to park in your garage today, I would love to do that. But there's a couple rules to this little game that make it a little more interesting. One is it's the only cool collector car you can have. The second is I want you to drive this thing. I don't want it to be a garage queen or collect any dust. And the last one is you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys with or that P-51 Mustang. So whatever you choose, you got to live with it. So what can I buy you?
Oh, boy. That's such a tough question. I wish I could come up with something other than what I'm looking at right now. My old '54, and I'm already there. I've got that car. But if you were going to buy me, if I'm drawing blanks, I'm sorry, Mark, as to what just a car that I've drooled over for a lot of years. There's been a lot of them.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Steve. The fact that you just said what you said, you already have it. Is a testament to a life well lived. And I love it when my guests say that. Number one, because I don't have to go buy you a car today. But number two, I'd love to do that for you. But number two is the fact that you found what you like and you're loving it and you're living with it. So I'm happy with you just looking out in the driveway there and smiling at what you have and saying, you know what, I'm content in life. I don't need anything else. I've got what I want. So it has so many memories in it. Plus, Art Chrisman was a name that anyone familiar with drag racing will know the name Art Chrisman. We lost Art a couple of years ago, but he was voted one of the all-time top drag racers, an incredible guy, and I have an Art Chrisman engine in that car, which just it even makes it closer to my heart that I've got. Every time I start that up, I think of Art and what an amazing man he was and how much he contributed to the sport. Yeah, well, that's awesome. Warms my heart to know you've got all you need just sitting right there. A loving wife of many, many years and a cool car in the driveway. What more could a guy ask for? You've lived a life well lived. And what's the best way for people to follow along with you? Is it nitrorevival.com?
Yeah, I mean, that'll bring us, bring you up to date. My daughter's real active on social media, and so there's a lot of stuff that shows up on Facebook that gets shared. But our little website gives you a pretty good indication of what we're up to, and we hope everybody can come out and enjoy a good time with us and relive some good memories from that magical time. I think, like I say, getting old is not it's not always cracked up to be, but we definitely lived through some interesting times and still keeping those memories alive through our Nitro Revival.
Absolutely. And I was saying about getting old, it beats the other option, so it's good to be getting old. That's for sure. So nitrorevival.com, I'll put a link to that on Steve's show notes page. I'll tell you, if you got some young kids in your family and you want to take them and show them some American history and something they probably never dreamed even existed, take them to one of these shows. It'll enlighten them. It could spark an interest that could last a lifetime. And of course, if you're going to be anywhere in the Orange County, Los Angeles area in middle of March, go to the Classic Auto Show. You can meet Steve, you can meet me, and you can meet all the other cool people that are going to be at this event and see over 2,000 cool cars, including the Cackle Cars that Steve and his buddies will be making a little noise with there. So I encourage you to join us at the Classic Auto Show as well. And you can find everything we've shared today on Steve's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website with links so you can figure out how to get tickets and how to attend. Hey, Steve, thanks for spending some time this morning with me and being so generous. Sorry about the rain that we sent down south for you today, but you Californians can use it. We're done with the snow, so I'm going to send you some snow next, okay? Because we haven't handled the snow very well up here. We get an unusual wallop of snow. I've still got about 12 inches of snow in my driveway today. It's nuts. But I'll be happy to send that down your way as well. I want to thank you for sharing your experiences in your life with my listeners. Until you and I talk again, buddy, I'll see you at the Classic Auto Show.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.